Okay. Shalom. I would like to say a few words about the parasha of this coming Shabbat, of course. This Shabbat is known as Shabbat Kalla because we are about, next week, in the very beginning of the week, the holiday, the glorious holiday of the Jewish people, Chag HaShavuot, the day in which God gave the Jewish people His Torah. His most preferred possession, as our sages, they put it this way, based on the verse, Ki lekach tov natati lachem, Torati al ta'azovu. Which means in that verse, it says that God is begging the Jewish people, learn Torah, because I have given you my best possession. Do not abandon it. It's a fatal mistake for the Jewish people to relinquish the study of the Torah, because it is the Torah that we have received at the mountain of Sinai, is the secret of our survival. And that's why we celebrate Chag HaShavuot. This is a day of celebration, because there is nothing happier that happened to the Jewish people than the day when they received the Torah at the mountain of Sinai. The Torah made us what we are. We are Yisrael, the people who belong to God, the people who adhered to the Shekhinah, to the divine presence, the people who cannot completely disconnect themselves from God. By giving us the Torah, God has made us partners with Him. And therefore, it says in the Talmud, as we will be explaining later on, from Masechet Ketubot on page 111, that if you learn Torah, you gain eternal life. As it says in the Talmud there, Kol mi sheyesh bo or Torah mechayehu. Anyone who has the light of Torah in him, that light of Torah will be his survival in the world to come. That will give him the real life. Life in this world is passing by, is quickly ending. But life in the world to come is an eternal one. And anyone who is into the Torah will see that. What about Jews who do not learn Torah? Is that means that God is going to relinquish them? We shall see about that later on. But right now, we live in a time of great turbulence. At this time, it's already 600 days, going into more. The soldiers of Israel, God bless them, and we love them. There's no way we can define the way we love and how much we owe gratitude to the soldiers of Israel who give their life for the salvation of the Jewish state. Every day for the past 600 days, especially in order to bring freedom to those poor people who have been taken in captivity. We owe them a great deal to the soldiers of Israel. There's no question about it that every soldier is worth more than his weight in gold. I am sure that God has a special place for those soldiers. We thank you very much. But the purpose of my talk is to emphasize the importance of those who learn Torah, rather than going also to the army of Israel to fight for us. We have to understand something that is extremely important for every Jew to know. A Jew who denies that is a problem. Because the main reason that we are still here today, after hundreds of years, after 2,000 years of exile, we are still alive. Still the world knows whom we are. The world knows that we have been chosen by God. Is it possible to say that this is the reason why they hate us? Yes, there is such a possibility. Why? Because it's only psychological. When someone is chosen for something in which they don't pertain at all, it's only logical to say that that's the reason why they would hate us. Anti-Semitism. What is this? This is a law of nature? Perhaps it's a law of nature because we are not what they are, and they know that. Of course we look like them and everything. Everything that we do, they do also. Except the learning of Torah. But the learning of Torah makes us attached to the Almighty Himself. When you are attached to the divine presence and the Almighty Himself, you cannot die. I'm not talking about physically. Physically we die, we suffer. We even suffered more than anybody else among the nations. But real life is not physical. Physical ends very shortly. But spiritual life is something that is difficult to describe. It has to do only with one thing: belief. If you believe, then you know that real life is there, not here. Not something that ends quickly. It's something that is forever and ever. Eternal. And that's, when we look upon the Jewish people, that's what you look at. Something that is eternal, that cannot die. Oh yes, it can suffer very much, even more than anybody else in the planet. But at the same time, as it says in the first chapter, in the introduction to the book of the Fathers, we read it always. Kol Yisrael yesh lehem chelek le'olam haba. Every Yisrael, every Jew, has the right to gain access to the world to come. What is so special about the world to come? The world to come is eternal. This world is not eternal. But the world to come is something that is forever and ever. Le'olam yirshu aretz. That's a quotation from the Bible. Forever they will gain access to that land of life that never ends. And now we live in this kind of time when a very big chunk of the Jewish people is serving in the army and giving their life for us so that we will all survive. Not only that, because of the soldiers of Israel, we testify to the fact that we see the marvels that God operates for us. Miracles, the great victory day after day brought by our wonderful soldiers is a demonstration of God's power. Of course, in a limited way, but that's what we see today. Great victories. May God bless them. Amen. But we should keep on praying that the light of Torah keeps on illuminating us, because we are that part of the Jewish people that believe that because of the light of Torah that still illuminates the sky and the earth, as long as there are young people who are in the yeshiva and learning Torah, learning Gemara. This is the great protection that God has given us. This is what protects us. If this light is extinguished, there is great danger. There is great danger. We are even afraid to say it, to explain it. If, God forbid, that side who keeps on asking for it, that they should also be taken to the army, then we will not have the protection of the Torah. What does it mean? Can we say that it will mean great danger over this state of Israel and the population of Israel? Can we withstand this kind of danger? I remember very well. I will tell you the story of my life. When I was about 17 years old, it happened that immediately after the war of the 6 Days War, that war which has been covered with miracles no end, glory after glory, after 6 days it was all over. And then you know what happened? I remember very well. All the students of the University of Jerusalem gathered in that house which we call Binyane Ha'uma in Yerushalayim. And they all came, and 99% of them were not religious. Very few of them had a little kippah on their heads. Why? They gathered because they wanted to hear Moshe Dayan, the legendary Moshe Dayan. He was invited to speak to them. I, being curious, being young and curious, I wanted to also hear this legend, this living legend, Moshe Dayan, who was not only the chief of the army of Israel, but he was also prime minister of Israel. So they all went to listen to him. And the whole building was filled up with young people, students of the university. Well, I went also there. And I was able to sit there because I wanted very much to listen to his words. That happened after the victory of the 6 Days War. So he got up and he gave us a beautiful discourse. And after he finished, he gave time for questions. And the first question came up from one of the students, not religious at all. And the question was, why is it that the young people, the students of the yeshiva, are not called to go to the army? We need soldiers. And this question brought about a big brouhaha of everybody applauded him for asking this question. As I said, most of them were not religious at all. And the answer of Moshe Dayan came in. And he said, after breathing somehow, so he explained, he said, they, referring to the Haredim, to the ultra-Orthodox people, they say that we win because of their learnings, Torah learning. We, the majority maybe, or maybe half the population of the Jewish people, they don't believe. Okay, so they believe and we don't believe. Now can anybody come and say who's right? Nobody, right? So let's assume that they are correct. That if they don't learn Torah, we cannot win. What are we going to do? We will be in grave danger. Is this what we want? Thank God we made it even this way, without them. But in case they are correct, and they will all join in the army, and nobody else is left learning to learn Torah, we will be left, according to their belief, we will be left without protection. Is this what we want? What I will never forget in my life is the fact that after this answer coming from Moshe Dayan, it brought about the applauding for more than 3 minutes. They did not stop applauding him. Coming from students who are not religious, to have such a reaction, it gave me such a feeling in my heart that I will never forget. There is that which we call in Hebrew nitzotz hayhudim, the spark of Jewishness in every heart. Even the non-religious, he will not give up his Judaism. In most cases, Jews did not live, died. They died rather than giving up their Jewishness. And that's exactly the same logic should be applied today. It is possible to say that in the time of the 6 Days War, they did not need more than a few thousands, but now many more thousands of them are needed. Yes, it's possible. But still the question remains, what happens if they are all called to the army and we are left without Torah? We are without real Torah being learned in the yeshiva and midrash and kolelim. If we don't have it, maybe we are left without protection. Do we need that really? Maybe we should apply this kind of logic, because truly the same logic remains. What happens if we stay without it? To my humble opinion, I cannot give an opinion about people who do not learn, whether they should go to the army or not, because my feelings towards every soldier of Israel is grandiose. cannot be evaluated by anything except the learning Torah. I prefer those who learn Torah. It says in the Midrash, King David, you know that King David went to fight the Philistines over 40 times, and every time he came out victorious. Such a victory that came upon him that no other nation has ever had anything against him. And you know what it says in the Midrash? It says that King David, when he left to fight, he took with him 12,000 soldiers to fight, knowing that there are 12,000 others who stay in the yeshiva and learn Torah. This way he knows he's well protected. This is what we want. So we have to be very careful before we come to any kind of decision in the subject. Today we hear this is a time of war, this is the time which... But definitely we need the logic to speak about that. Especially in a time of war. We need the protection of God. And the protection comes only through the learning of Torah. The Torah is our protection. You don't believe it? But there are about 50% who believe it. So what do you do if that 50% is correct? Today, more than 50% believe that. More than 50%. It doesn't matter how many. It's enough that one side has this kind of belief. If you don't take it, then you are left without it. Remember that. It says in the parasha Bamidbar, in fact the parasha begins with the words Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe Bemidbar Sinai lemor, and God spoke to Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai, in the desert of Sinai. That's where we had Har Sinai, the mountain of Sinai, upon which the Torah was given to the Jewish people. As I said before, when God chose us to give us His Torah, His most preferred possession, we practically became attached to God. We became the people of God. No one ever succeeded to take us away from that. We have other religions. Every other religion, the big one to the other big one, they all say that the first ones, we are the first ones, but we have been relinquished by God. Now it's them. Well, we shall see soon who's correct. But as we know, as long as we have our Torah, we are attached to God. It's impossible. It is true that we made many mistakes. It is true that the Jewish people did sin many times. But come on, can you compare that to the sins of the nations? Go and see how much they kill. Go and see how much cruelty they have. And you go into the Jewish people, you will see plenty of compassion. The Talmud says that in Masechet Brachot we find there are 3 gifts that God gave to the Jewish people, so to speak. What are they? Baishanim, Rachmanim, Vegomle Chasadim. In the nature of the Jew you will find shyness, Baishanut, that shyness, to be shy. Second, Rahmanut, compassion. Is it true? If you are a decent person, then you know it is true. The Jew is compassionate. The Jew is shy. But the Jew is also Gomel Chasadim. The Jew always gave charity, helped. They do help. They are always ready to help. They collect money here and there. I mean, despite whatever you want to say, but they collect money for the purpose to help others, religious or not. No question about it. So this Torah has given us also some traits of character that make us what we are. I'm not here to say, of course there are many good people among the nations. Even the Talmud says that Chasidei Umot HaOlam, the good people among the nations will also have a spiritual life. And I'm talking about our own belief, because every other religion have their own belief. They also believe that they will see whatever they want to see in the world to come, right? Of course, they don't give us much chance about it. The Jewish people will go to hell and so forth. Let them believe whatever they want to believe, but as long as we have our Torah, we believe that our Torah is the real religion. That has never changed. And that is something that even the nations cannot deny that. They know the truth. They know very well the truth. But they cannot adhere to our truth because our truth is difficult for them to take. Let us see what it says in the Talmud in Masechet Ketubot on page 111. And I'm going to make it as short as possible. We find a dialogue between Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Elazar was a disciple of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan was much older, and Rabbi Elazar was a young man who believes very much, and he says, Amei haaretz enam chayim. I mean, Jews who are empty of Torah, they never learned Torah, they will not see life. Which life? Life in the world to come. And he brings his own verses from the book of Isaiah that confirms what he says. Rabbi Yochanan heard that. He didn't like what he heard. He said, you mean to tell me that there are many Jews who will not see, who will not have the life that is waiting for all of us in the world to come? I don't like you to say that. He says, La nichaleho lemare. I mean, it's not pleasant for you to say that every Jew, especially that it says, Kol Israel yesh lahem chelek le'olam haba, every Jew is entitled to the world to come. But that's another question that can be discussed in different occasions. But in the meantime, this is what he says to Rabbi Elazar. And the Gemara tells us that Rabbi Elazar saw that Rabbi Yochanan was hurt when he heard that Jews who don't have Torah will not have the world to come. And then he comes to Rabbi Yochanan and he says to him, Master, I have a solution. Here is a way. All it takes is that a Jew who did not learn Torah, there is a way that he will also find his way in the world to come. All he has to do is, umasi bito letalmid chacham. If he has a daughter, for example, he makes sure that she marries a Torah scholar. Automatically, even though he did not learn Torah, but he becomes attached now to Torah through his son-in-law, and now he is attached also to God. And thus, he will have he will have access to the world to come. There is another kind, ha'oseh prakmetia letalmid chacham. Help a Torah scholar in his survival. How? By expanding his business, if he has a business, by giving him some kind of business, or hamhaneh talmid chacham min nechasab. Or if you are rich, then give him also part of your riches. I mean, share with him some of your riches so that he will enjoy also his life. And automatically you become nidbak lashchina, you become attached to the divine presence. And it says in the Torah, "Ve'atem ad-devekim b'Adonai Elohechem, hayim kulechem hayom." Those who are attached to the divine name of Hashem shall live forever. And the Talmud says, what do you mean attached to God? Attached to God, can you be attached to the fire? God is all fire, the divine presence is all fire. How can you be attached to Him? But the Talmud says, there is a way to be attached anyway. Through either the learning of Torah, which is known as fire, or, as we have explained before, to be attached to someone who learns Torah, through your Torah, or through your money, and so forth. There is a way for every Jew, but a Jew who does not believe at all, is not a believer, who rejected all the Torah forever and everything, that's a problem. So for that, there are other answers. But in the meantime, I would like to conclude my words by saying, "Ve'atem haddevekim b'Adonai Elohechem," those who remain loyal and adhere to their belief for God and His Torah, hayim kullechem hayom, shall be alive always, like you are alive today, you shall be alive forever and ever. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach, Chag Matan Torah Sameach.